How's it going? Tyler here with Maine Angling. I was just about to restock up a couple of my staple flies here, so I figured I'd do a quick tutorial of what I call a stinger leech. I'm sure it has some other names. It's essentially just a mole leech with some marabou wrapped on it, but it's pretty simple and effective. So going to do a quick step-by-step here with you. I'll fast forward through the boring parts, and we'll see some flies at the end of it. So follow along. Hope you enjoy. Okay, we're going to just dive right in. First things first, want to put down a good thread base. We're going to be tying in a stinger hook off the back here. You can use an Intruder Shank for the actual hook here, or I just use a bigger streamer hook and cut the hook band off it and cut the point off. I'm just using an egg style hook. It's nice to have the upturned eyes when you feed either the monofilament or the running line through that you're using, or braid if you want to. The upturned eyes make it so it sits flat. If you're using just a flat-eyed hook, it will curve down or curve up depending on how it's fed through. This sits nice and flat, so first you're just going to kind of decide the general length you want to tie this, and tie in and start to tie in your stinger. I like to hook it into my material holder at the back there. Tie it in all the way to the front. And once I get to the front, double it back. I guess I should mention, mostly to hold the cone in place, I'm using a little bit of lead wrap up front there. A little bit of extra weight to fight against the rabbit strip and the marabou. And yeah, holds the head in place. Next step, we're going to just use some medium copper wire that's going to hold the Zonker strip rabbit in there. Tie that on super quick. I'm just using some medium kind of Cactus Chenile here. You can use whatever your preference is. This is in brown. I'm doing an olive version here, but you can use whatever color and whatever color combinations you want to do. Once you get that all tied in, wrap everything, wrap the chenille to the front of the hook. You're not going to see much of the body realistically underneath the rabbit and the marabou, so you don't have to be too particular. Cut it off, make sure it's nice and secure. Rabbit strip. I like to do my best to poke it a little bit under the cone there, just to make sure it snugs nice and far forward. Go back. I tend to cut the actual rabbit strip to just about the bend of the egg hook off the back, so you have a little bit more of the actual fur sticking out. And then as carefully as you can, gonna wrap the wire through the rabbit strip. If you really soak it down when you wet your fingers, it becomes a bit harder to actually find a gap. So just moisten your fingers a little bit and pull through there. And what I like to do as I go through is to put downward pressure on the strip itself, so you're not folding the edges up underneath the wire. Tends to make it work pretty well. At this point, we're sitting pretty wrapped in there pretty good. If you do get any extra caught in the wire, you can just tease that out with a bodkin, and yeah, pretty straightforward from there. Marabou feathers, you don't want it to be too webby or too buggy. That'll add a little bit more mass than you really need it to, so go for the thin stuff you can find, and we're going to just tie in the tip here. If you want to go really thin, you can strip one side off this feather. I don't find it worthwhile to do that, so I just keep it as is. Make sure it's tied in there pretty good. And then as you wrap, just kind of keep folding it backwards. Now, depending on how fancy you want to get, you're welcome to put in a collar in front of that. Also, sometimes I'll add some flash, but for the sake of simplicity and knowing that I'm going to likely lose quite a few of these, I am just going to whip finish it at this point and call it a day. Once it's whip finished, I'll just kind of tease out a couple of those Marabou feathers, and then that's all there is to it. If you use or like to use head cement, it's a good time to throw that in. I don't use it often for these kind of flies. Trust the strength of the thread is stronger than the shellacs are most of the time. And pretty straightforward. What I call a stinger leech. Might have a couple other names, but does the trick. Great fly in the lakes and on the rivers, and hope it finds a place in your box and that it gets you some fish. So have a great day, everybody, and enjoy.